Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking a pretty exhilarating shortcut, I think, right into the interior architecture of the self.
Yeah, and we're doing it by looking at the evolving psyche of just one individual.
Right, and our source material here is, well, it's far from conventional. We're diving deep into this really insightful reflection document. It's dated July 13th, 2025.
And we're pairing that with a really rigorous analysis of his creative manifesto, which was delivered as this album concept called Root Beer Records.
It's such a great name.
It's fantastic. And what's so fascinating here is that we aren't tracking, some historical figure or a global CEO.
No.
We are tracking the profound, and I mean really accelerated evolution of a sub-personality, an inner facet of a greater self who goes by the name Mac.
So our big challenge, really, our scope today, is to watch how this part of the psyche just completely transforms.
It's this journey from a social shapeshifter, someone constantly adapting to his environment, to what the document itself describes as a deeply self-aware force.
That's the key, isn't it? That transition from performing for others to really inhabiting his own truth. That's the core lesson here.
It is.
And so the mission for you, the listener, is to gain a completely fresh perspective on what radical self-awareness truly looks like.
And, how someone, or even just some part of someone, moves past just coping with their own contradiction.
Right, and instead starts to integrate them, not just to survive, but to actually thrive.
Exactly. So we're focusing on Mac, who is one of 10 documented subpersonalities. And throughout the source material, he's known as the Vibe Alchemist.
And that name, Vibe Alchemist, that's not just a throwaway line, right? There's a reason for it.
Oh, not at all. The designation is absolutely not incidental. It suggests someone who takes this raw, really unstable emotional material.
Like what? What are we talking about here?
Well, in Mac's case, it's humor, it's deep insecurity, and this intense cultural complexity.
Yeah.
And he actively alchemizes it. He turns it into something useful.
Like connection.
Connection, self-acceptance, and courage.
Yeah.
Yeah. The source calls him the soul's mixologist, blending these, disparate feelings like anxiety and quick wit into something that's stabilizing and genuinely helpful, not just for him, but for others too.
Okay, so let's unpack this journey, because the shift from the 2024 Mac to the 2025 Mac, it's not just an evolution, it feels like a revolution.
It really is.
So we're calling this part one, the evolution of Mac, from mask to mic. And I think we have to start by understanding the powerful gravitational pull of that mask.
Absolutely. So let's start in 2024. The early source material, it paints a very clear, if a little bit tragic, picture of Mac.
And what's that picture?
He's the archetype of the classic charming jokester, the quintessential class clown. The life of the party, always on, always ready with a joker or retort.
And that charisma, which I'm sure everyone loved, it was entirely functional, wasn't it?
100%. The document suggests his humor was primarily a tool, a really, really effective defense mechanism.
And used for what, specifically?
Specifically to deflect a bit from inner conflict and, critically, to seek external validation. And this wasn't just a quirk. The reflection document actually calls it an addiction, a straight-up addiction.
A dependency loop.
It was a total dependency loop. He needed those quick wins, the bursts of laughter, just to momentarily quiet that constant corrosive self-doubt that was just eating away at him.
So his internal state was just tension.
Profound tension. He famously described himself as a blur, a complicated mix of jock and nerd, and he was navigating identity tension, blackness, otherness. He just felt like a fundamental oddball.
So he was performing this cohesive identity that didn't actually match the fragmented feeling he had on the inside.
Not at all. And that feeling of fragmentation, it led directly to these specific, really exhausting pain points.
Like what?
Like a constant, almost desperate need to prove himself. The source details his involvement in things like sparring with Devin or doing parkour just to impress Liz.
So those weren't just hobbies, they were high-stakes performances.
Exactly. And it wasn't about the activity itself. This was Mac's desperate bid for recognition, just trying to earn his seat at the table in every single interaction.
And underneath all that hyperactivity was this profound fear of being insignificant.
Right, which is summed up by this haunting phrase he used. He said he hated to be like an NPC in everyone else's lives.
Wow.
A non-playable character.
A non-playable character, just existing to serve the narrative of other people.
The fear of non-existence, of just being background filler, that's a powerful driver for anyone.
It's huge. But the document suggests the most complex pain point was this feeling of dysmorphia around his identity, his race, his gender, just who he fundamentally was.
So the world saw him one way, but he felt totally disconnected from that projection.
Totally, always exhausting himself, just comparing himself to some ideal that he could never, ever reach.
And that internal friction, that brings us right to the core psychological trap he was in.
The class clown dilemma. The class clown dilemma. The jester crown gave him that quick, intoxicating relief. A laugh from someone he admired was, I think he said, like a shot to my vein.
Instantaneous validation. A temporary fix.
But Mac came to realize those laughs were a quick flame. They provided heat, but absolutely zero sustained warmth.
And the reflection document reveals he was a slave to the laughs.
Right.
All right. Because the alternative was just too terrifying.
So when the joke bombed and the room went quiet,
he understood that the silence was a mirror. It forced him to confront the cracking mask and all the raw, unaddressed insecurity that was hiding underneath.
he was trapped. It was a cycle where seeking validation only led to this temporary relief, and that was followed by even greater exposure when the performance failed.
It's a classic cycle of self-betrayal, isn't it? You perform a version of yourself you think other people want, you get the approval.
But the approval isn't for you.
Exactly. It's for the character. So you remain starved for genuine connection. And that, right there, that was the 2024 Mac.
But by 2025, the source material notes this just monumental shift. It's huge.
It moved from that frantic performance to this grounded presence. He seemed to have finally stopped trying to fill the silence and started using the silence to listen to himself.
And that shift is directly, and I mean directly, tied to his creative project, Root Beer Records. The document explains that the act of creating forced him to peel back some layers.
So he evolved from just cracking jokes
To delivering sermons and syllables, using lyrical vulnerability to confront the really, really tough stuff. Racial tension, loneliness, that internal dissonance. He stopped distracting the audience and he started giving them the truth, just framed in poetry.
which means he traded in that light deflection for some raw excavation. Conceptual tracks like In My Skin and Wither and Bloom, those aren't just entertainment.
No, they're confessional.
They're confessionals.
And this excavation, it crystallized into these new pillars for his identity. First, he anchored himself as a cultural historian.
So moving beyond just being the comic relief, way beyond, he became a carrier of generational memory, grounding himself in legacy. Tracks like We've Just Begun and Pay Homage show him actively seeking out and defining his own history.
So he moved from passively reacting to his environment to actively defining his story within a larger context.
Yes, which gives him a much, much sturdier foundation. He also embraced what the source calls ownership of self.
Okay, what's that?
This is the practical side of authenticity. He stopped trying to hide the parts of him that society might judge as, inadequate.
For example?
For example, he claimed his frugal lifestyle. He used his frugal life anthem to frame it not as a failure, but as absolute freedom.
He literally changed the narrative around his lack of traditional wealth. I love that line. My life's like ramen, cheap, warm, and fun.
It's brilliant. He reframed his situation as an intentional choice, a rebellion against that pressure to conform to materialistic hustle culture.
And crucially, he fully reclaimed the title of Vibe Alchemist. But the difference now is that he performs because he has something important to say, not because he needs that external approval.
Exactly. He blends the contradictions he once hid: jock, nerd, clown, poet, black diaspora stunt to survive, and, this is the key, to thrive authentically. He's not minimizing the mix anymore.
He's weaponizing it.
He's weaponizing it. The source notes that his quick wit and his warmth are still there, but they've gained this intentional purpose. They are now truth-telling disguised as punchlines.
He uses the comfort of humor to deliver an uncomfortable truth.
Yes, bypassing the listener's intellectual defenses. This entire internal shift is just massive, from seeking acceptance to declaring independence.
And that independence, that leads us directly into his organizing principle, his core philosophical engine, radical authenticity.
Exactly.
Okay, welcome to part 2, Mac's Core Philosophy Radical Authenticity, or RA. This is the operating system for the 2025 Mac. So how does he define this radical approach to being himself?
Mac's RA is defined as his soul's signature move. I love that.
Yeah.
It's described as a spiritual remix of Take Me As I Am, but with beats, banter, and blunt honesty.
So it's an active mission.
It's fundamentally an active mission to be human loudly in a world that, as he notes, often prefers us muted or marketable. It's a constant active process of self-disclosure.
That phrasing, muted or marketable, that suggests a really deep conflict with the modern digital age.
Oh, it does. Max RA is absolutely framed as a rebellion against the pressures of transactional modern life, where relationships are quid pro quo,
Against hustle culture.
against the nonstop hustle culture that demands productivity over well-being, against respectability politics that dictates how certain groups have to perform, and most obviously, against the curated perfection online. He is rebelling against all the filters, both digital and societal.
I find the analogy he uses for living RA incredibly powerful. He says it's like wearing rollerblades in a world of escalators.
It's so illustrative of the effort involved, isn't it?
Right.
Everyone else is passively riding the predetermined, smooth, upward path of expectation. That's the escalator.
Right.
And Mac is choosing the rollerblades. You choose your own path, you're actively moving, it requires way more energy, you might fall, you definitely risk misunderstanding, and you stand out.
But crucially, you are in control of your own momentum and direction,
That's it. You choose self-expression over ease.
which highlights the intentionality required here. This isn't just being yourself, it's a disciplined, active choice. Okay, so let's unpack the 4 pillars that support this ambitious philosophy. Starting with pillar 1, no filter, no front.
This is the absolute refusal to edit oneself for expectations or likes. It's the commitment to showing up as the totality of who you are, acknowledging all the parts that don't neatly fit into a mold.
So this includes the nerd who loves anime and spreadsheets.
The black man who sometimes feels internal pressure about his identity, the sensitive joker, the creative who's battling imposter syndrome. He puts the whole contradictory package forward.
He just lives completely in that vulnerability, even when it's socially uncomfortable. And the source suggests his core mindset here is this radical boundary. If I'm too much, maybe you need to expand.
Yes, and that shifts the burden of adjustment from Mac, the minority, to the audience, the majority.
That phrase is a declaration of self-worth.
It is. It says, my completeness is non-negotiable. It challenges the listener. Are you ready to engage with genuine complexity, or do you only have space for convenient stereotypes? If you can't handle my full self, the problem isn't my magnitude, it's the narrowness of your capacity.
Wow, that's a profound challenge. Okay, what is the second pillar?
Pillar 2 is whole, not perfect. Mac understands that authenticity is inherently messy. It requires embracing the awkward truths alongside joy.
It's integrating both the Game Boy in your backpack and the trauma in your backstory.
Exactly. The strength, Mac realized, comes from integrating all of it, not just the shiny parts, and acknowledging that the process of being whole is continuous and it's never finished.
So it's a radical anti-perfectionism, normalizing the process of healing and growth rather than expecting this clean, resolved narrative.
Right. It pushes back so hard against the idea that you have to fix yourself before you show yourself.
You show the construction site, not just the finished building.
Precisely.
Mm.
Which brings us to the third element, expression as invitation, which makes Mac the vibe liberator.
I love that shift in focus. It's not just about Mac feeling good about himself.
Correct. Mac's goal isn't just self-actualization, it's communal liberation. His expressed authenticity becomes an invitation for other people to exhale here.
And realize they don't have to fake it either.
Yes. It gives permission to others to speak without overthinking, cry without apologizing, dance terribly. His vulnerability creates a shared safe space, a ripple effect, where genuine self-expression makes real connection possible.
He provides the emotional template for others to demask. So what's the final pillar of this philosophy?
The final pillar is rebellion through realness, or soft protest. Radical authenticity is inherently an act of resistance against cultural homogenization. The source notes that his specific choices, his thrift store style, his offbeat humor, his homemade soundscapes.
His embrace of low-budget cool.
Yes, all of it is framed as small acts of protest against conformity and consumerism.
It's choosing soul over spectacle, community over clout. He's intentionally declaring that his self-worth is derived internally, not from some consumerist resume.
Right, and that lyric you mentioned, it sums up the entire philosophy beautifully. Loud in my flaws, still worth applause.
It means he's not waiting for external validation or waiting until he's flawless to be free and self-accepting.
And this whole framework, it also gives us a truly nuanced understanding of resilience. Mac's resilience involves bouncing back without pretending that the fall didn't hurt.
That's a huge psychological distinction.
It is. True strength, for Mac, comes from acknowledging the pain, sitting with the struggle and learning from the wound, rather than masking it with forced optimism or just moving on too quickly.
This actively rejects the highlight reel culture we were just talking
It
about.
does. It pushes back against presenting only the wins and the glamorous moments, and instead it normalizes the everyday sacred.
Things like stuttering, crying, eating cereal for dinner, just the normal, imperfect human stuff we usually try to hide.
And when Max shares that messiness, he reminds the audience that we are all imperfect together.
And his primary vehicle for delivering this messy truth is humor. In this new phase, humor is not deflection, it is pure, intentional truth-telling. So how does he manage that balance? Because deflection humor and truth humor, they can look really similar on the surface.
The difference is intent and outcome. Humor becomes a powerful way to convey truth because it bypasses people's defenses. When you deliver a profound observation about social anxiety or racial tension as a punchline, people laugh before they even realize they've accepted the premise.
So it allows him to say the quiet part out loud.
In a way that people can actually hear and absorb, rather than becoming immediately defensive.
Yeah.
It's a joke that lands right in your gut and makes you think, wait, was that real? And am I a part of that?
It's a Trojan horse for self-reflection. Okay, this whole idea of Mac as the emotional center and philosophical guide, it leads us perfectly into part 3. Mac as the emotional architect, the vibe alchemist in action.
And the source material gives us this remarkable, ongoing analogy. It describes Mac as the bartender in the metaphorical restaurant of your psyche.
The soul's mixologist.
The soul's mixologist. He is literally the person who serves up what people need before they even know they need it.
The bar setting is brilliant for that because it's a space where people often drop their fronts. So what are the key functions of this metaphorical bartender in Mac's persona?
First, he is the emotional alchemist. He doesn't just see the surface. He senses the vibe, the anger, the quiet sadness, the simmering resentment.
And he's not trying to solve the problem.
No, he's curating the atmosphere. He offers both distraction, a joke, a chill playlist, and presence. He might slide over a warm root beer, which is his signature, and just sit in comfortable silence.
Offering healing through intentional hospitality, not unsolicited advice.
Exactly. He meets people exactly where they are emotionally, without demanding a performance or a resolution from them.
Okay, second.
Second, he's the confessional keeper. The bar is defined as this sacred, safe space where people come when they can't say things anywhere else. He listens without judgment, offering reflections that hit hard but are non-preachy, reminding others they are not broken beyond repair.
He holds the space for them to process their own contradictions. But I have to challenge this point. If he is constantly the confessional keeper and the emotional alchemist running this metaphorical bar, isn't there a risk that Mac is sacrificing his own needs by perpetually being the safe space for everyone else?
That's a great question.
I mean, where does he go to drop his own guard?
That is the essential, critical question, and the source material recognizes that risk. Mac is aware of the emotional toll. And this leads directly to his third function, the creator of custom combos.
Okay.
His drinks are off-script
because
they are designed to manage the very contradictions he absorbs. He blends disparate things. A splash of nostalgia, which is comforting,
the twist of anxiety,
which is honest, and a cube of courage garnished with a joke that makes you laugh even if it stings a little.
So the custom combos are the mechanisms by which he synthesizes his own contradictions and maintains his composure while serving others. It's connection, comedy, and catharsis all mixed into one self-regulating system.
Yes. And finally, he's the DJ of the soul. He crafts conceptual playlists, which the source calls emotional scaffolding.
He regulates the mood not just for others, but for the entire environment.
Right. He knows when a slow jam is needed to bring down the temperature, or when a throwback is needed to anchor people in shared nostalgia. He is the human warm-up track, ensuring the emotional pitch is correct before any serious interaction begins.
That analogy paints a very complete picture of his relational role, the external-facing Mac, but the reflection goes even deeper, using body parts as these profound metaphors for how Mac internally processes and contains the emotional labor he takes on.
We have to talk about the stomach and the vacuole.
We do. These are not simple analogies. There's something else entirely.
They are powerful, almost spiritual ciphers, unique to his reflective framework. Mac relates truth first in his gut, the second brain, stomach. His instinct, his unfiltered truth, speaks through stomach growls and sidewalk chalk.
He says it's the internal J-shaped vessel where chaos gets seasoned and reality lives.
Yes, and it sounds like his processing center for emotional pain, but on a visceral, almost primal level. He takes stress like snacks, emotions like entree, and slowly digests trauma.
So why the stomach as the metaphor? Why not the brain or the heart?
Because the stomach is the site of physical assimilation. It's where external material is broken down and integrated into the self. For Mac, it's where chaos is translated. He feels truth below all that, below the intellectual chatter of the brain and the emotional turbulence of the heart.
His stomach is where he simultaneously prays and panics.
It's the storm translator, the place where he consciously chooses to process pain to turn my belly into a holy terrain. He takes the chaos of the world, allows it to season inside, and turns it into fertile ground for self-knowledge. It's the deep integration of anxiety.
So the stomach is the site of active processing, of translating chaos into wisdom. Now, let's turn to the vessel, vacuole. This is all about containment and strength.
Right. The vacuole, biologically, is the storage sac in a cell, holding water, waste, or nutrients. For Mac, it represents his capacity to absorb and contain external and internal pressure. He acts as a vessel holding my rain.
Keeping secrets and pressure, like static in a vinyl packet, he's the emotional vault.
Yes, and the source notes he doesn't leak, but he might stall. He is the vault, the tank, a filter between my tears and your eyes. This suggests immense internal pressure.
It does.
And this is where the depth of his strength is revealed. He is not compartmentalizing, which is just pushing emotion away. He is consciously containing, which is holding and integrating the emotion without allowing it to overflow or harm others.
This is the mechanism that allows him to be the confessional keeper without breaking.
Exactly. He's showing that emotional strength lies in softness held. He carries what others aren't ready to face. He's not empty, he's simply contained. He's not weak, he's intentionally refrained. It's a demonstration of controlled, empathetic strength.
That containing strength is the cost of being the vibe alchemist. The ability to hold the room's energy requires absorbing that energy first. Wow, that complexity gives immense weight to the music he created.
It really does.
So now that we understand the architecture of his inner self, let's transition to his creative output in part 4, Root Beer Records. This album concept is the sound of a subconscious uncensored.
These conceptual tracks are his emotional roadmap. They illustrate the philosophy of radical authenticity in real time, moving from deflection to deep declaration. Let's dive into some of the most illustrative highlights, focusing on how they articulate his journey.
Okay, we have to start with track 1, B1G, B4 Inc., H4NK. This has that pure golden era hip-hop vibe, just full of youthful ambition and joy.
The key here is the theme of redefined value. It focuses on stating, making videos with the crew, just living for the moment. And the key lyrical takeaway, it redefines the flex.
The real flex is the love where you came from.
And having fun without cash in the bank. It's a powerful declaration that life quality is measured by experience and connection, not material wealth.
Then we immediately hit that core identity tension with track 2, TH3 Bull Third L1FA. This is nerdcore hip-hop, exploring that dual identity of being a black nerd or blurred.
Which directly illustrates the tension of the 2024 Mac we were talking about.
For sure.
The track uses these hyper-specific nostalgic references to anchor his history. The CRT glow, Pokemon Game Boy Color.
And deep cuts like the Yu-Gi-Oh card Vampire Lord Jinzo.
Right. This is Max showing Pillar 1, no filter, no front. He's reconciling those two worlds, capturing the exact feeling of being half jock, half gook, caught in the maze, and declaring that both halves belong.
Okay, next we see the pure internal determination required for radical authenticity in track 5, Dare D3ble. This one is aggressive rap, an anthem of pure grit resilience.
This track is the psychological engine. It's about pushing boundaries and willingly accepting trial by fire as necessary for growth. The lyrics here are intense, turning pain into power.
What's the key lyric?
It's that sacrificial ambition. Blood, sweat, tears, that's my sacrifice of kings. I'll build an empire of bars, watch me spread my wings. It shows that Mac's drive is fueled by the pain he processed in his metaphorical stomach. He converted chaos into fuel.
And the emotional cost of that processing is so clear in track 7, W1 of Laurel 0 Meters. This is conversational rap, focusing on growth through struggle.
This track perfectly illustrates that resilience nuance we discussed, bouncing back without pretending the fall didn't hurt. It uses nature metaphors, rain, storm, flood, to discuss losing innocence and the painful cost of the wisdom I collect.
The source notes that society offers a quick fix.
But Mac prefers to sit in the rain, let the cold improve. The spirit learns resilience only through difficulty. Without the storm, there's no bloom.
The most vulnerable track, though, the heart of his dysmorphia, has to be track 8, One Vibe is Skay One In. This introspective piece focuses explicitly on Mac's experience as a black man.
This track is incredibly raw. It recalls that anecdote of him being the only black face in hockey and ice skating and hearing slurs from a teammate. That constant feeling of exposure and judgment led him to feel like a costume I'm wearing, but it don't fit within.
It highlights the emotional burden of that identity tension we talked about in the 2024 Mac.
It does. And the desire expressed here is powerful in its simplicity. To be seen as Mac, not a color, not a label, just a unique individual. The track acknowledges the constant need to be aware of his dress and his tone, to play it safe, and then uses the music to declare freedom from that perpetual awareness.
Track 9, W3, Jeffy Feet B3 Gun, it shifts that vulnerability into empowerment. This is old school hip hop acting as a call to action.
This is him demonstrating Pillar 3, expression as invitation. He critiques the outside forces that try to limit him. They sold the hood like it's Hollywood hype. He admits his search for mirrors and reflections was foggy, forcing him to define identity for himself.
And the message, aimed outward, is clear. Your story's valid. We rise from shadows, rewrite the prose. It's an assertion of self-determination, not just for Mac, but for his entire community.
And finally, the album concludes with track 10, P4Y80 Image. This boom-bap track focuses on gratitude and legacy, and it anchors his newfound identity.
It's a beautiful tribute, extending gratitude to poets, scholars, and everyday heroes. But the core emotion is in the specific thanks to his parents.
Yes, his mom is thanked for her alchemy, turning stress into gold. And his dad, whose worn-out upholstery, told silent stories of drives to cold arenas at dawn.
Proving the sacrificial foundation upon which Mac's passion survived.
It grounds his entire journey in love and inherited sacrifice, recognizing that his identity and resilience were built on the often unseen emotional labor of others. The album concept truly is the emotional scaffolding Mac needed to build self-acceptance.
This leads us naturally to part 5, cultural ciphers and metaphors. Mac's philosophy, radical authenticity, isn't just in his lyrics.
No, it manifests through his choice of identity symbols, proving that his soft protest is embedded in every element of his life.
He uses cultural subjects as ciphers for his own identity and philosophy. And since the project is Root Beer Records, let's start with the root beer rhythm itself. Why this beverage as his brand?
Well, root beer, as a cipher, it represents deep roots, tradition, and transformation. It's Mac's journey in a glass.
Historically, it started as an indigenous brew medicinal tea, using bark, herbs, and sassafras.
Right, a healing, grounded tradition. But then it entered the mainstream. It was commercialized by a pharmacist named Hires and presented at the 1876 Philly Exposition, branded explicitly for a working-class mission.
It was affordable, accessible, inclusive.
Which aligns perfectly with Mac's anti-clout mentality.
And its popularity peaked during Prohibition when alcohol was banned, so it became associated with innocence, floats, and fizzy delights. It transitioned from a health elixir to a simple source of joy.
And this history mirrors Mac's own transformation. There was a powerful contrast in its chemistry. Traditional root beer was fermented, crafted with herbs like your grandma intended, emphasizing time and natural process.
Whereas modern versions are lab-made bliss using artificial sassafras and carbonation.
Quick, polished, but lacking depth.
Mac started as the lab-made bliss, the polished jokester, but his journey is about returning to the fermented craft with herbs version, the raw, challenging, but ultimately authentic self.
Exactly. And the source notes its polarizing global perception, where it barely survives in some places, and is even called toothpaste soda. It's a flavor that requires context and openness to be appreciated, much like Mac's own unique blended identity.
Okay, so let's look at Mac's flavors of the multiverse, the unexpected synthesis he embodies, using specific foods as identity symbols. Let's start with pineapple.
Pineapple is Mac's symbol of contradictory strength. The combination of armor and sweetness. It's famously difficult to grow, requiring 18 to 24 months.
Which illustrates Mac's slow, deliberate process of personal growth and self-acceptance.
Right. And historically, it was a rare luxury, a hospitality symbol. Mac embodies this contrast in his persona. He leads with warmth and welcome hospitality, but he maintains firm boundaries and grit.
Spiky brigade, armor tough, but the flavor sweet cascade.
He is approachable, but he is not easily broken.
Then there is corn.
Corn symbolizes deep roots, history, and life itself. It evolved over 9,000 years of indigenous shaping, turning a wild grass into a staple crop. It's the soul of the field and represents survival and resilience across cultures.
And Mac connects with its resilience, its deep history, saying, corn in my heart, corn in my veins.
It ties his personal journey to a deeper generational memory. directly relating to his new pillar as the cultural historian. It suggests that Mac's identity, like corn, is rooted in history, but adaptable enough to survive modern hybridization.
We have to discuss the hilarious modern cipher of overdraft swagger. This is satire turning financial anxiety into a genuine flex.
This is Mac choosing the Mac flow, being broke, but rich in soul. It's a direct, humorous protest against economic pressure, and the conceptual lyrics are priceless.
Taco Bell dates steal her login for streaming services.
And that perfect summary of his life, my life's like ramen, cheap, warm, and fun. He's demonstrating pillar 4 soft protest by finding humor and dignity in anti-consumerism.
Finally, let's look at the roles and identity ciphers he embraces, beyond just the bartender analogy. He defines himself by embracing figures who are often overlooked, but vital.
Arguing that the essential, quiet work holds the most power.
Starting with the band geek.
Which is not a punchline for Mac, it's a statement of discipline and identity.
The band geek is the backbone on Friday nights, providing the soundtrack of school. They are athletes of the art who embrace the misfit life and operate outside the traditional social hierarchy.
Yet they're absolutely essential to the community experience.
Right.
And Mac uses this identity to define his own role. The vibe alchemist who turns perceived shame into swagger with discipline, with rhythm, and by being loud and proud in their passion, they are the outcast her kings.
They prove that passion and rigor, not popularity, is the real source of influence.
Which connects directly to the delivery drivers. They're the unsung heroes who carry messages like sacred codes, from the Pony Express to modern gig workers.
They are the backbone crew, keeping the world running, having fed the world in the hardest time.
And Mac's appreciation highlights his own self-defined role, executing the vital, often overlooked work of emotional connection and translation. He sees himself as a vital delivery driver of truth and vibe, necessary for the flow of the internal world.
It is all about valuing function, discipline, and soul over flash and spectacle. He's taking perceived vulnerabilities or marginalized roles and just redefining them as sources of power and necessity.
He is the cultural bricoleur, assembling profound meaning from overlooked components.
And that is the ultimate essence of radical authenticity.
Yes, claiming the parts of yourself and your history that the world might dismiss and making them the foundation of your unshakable strength.
So we've tracked Mac's entire journey here, from masking his profound insecurity as the charming class clown, always seeking that quick flame, to embracing radical authenticity and owning every complex, contradictory facet of his being. His real superpower, as we've unpacked, is not charisma. It's blunt honesty delivered with this irresistible charm. He proved that he is the mixtape of the inner life, reminding us that we don't have to perform or achieve perfection to be inherently worthy of love.
And the beauty of Mac's story is how the creative process, those conceptual tracks of root beer records, served as emotional scaffolding. It allowed him to structure his contradictions and build self-acceptance and resilience.
Transforming his identity tension into lyrical vulnerability and shared connection.
Exactly. He leveraged the very things that once paralyzed him. His feeling of being an oddball, his financial frugality, his complex racial identity, and he made them the signature moves of his strengths.
He started out trying to disarm the world with cheekiness, but now he uses that charm to hold space for others. He connects where others might compartmentalize, and he plays where others pose.
He is the walking contradiction that somehow, through radical authenticity, makes perfect, complicated sense.
Mac's journey is this powerful testament that true strength comes from expressing and not hiding our most vulnerable parts.
The shift from shame and deflection to declaration and shared experience shows us that self-acceptance is indeed revolutionary.
Mac's story proves that being loud in my slaws can be low-key revolutionary. So what is the one small, awkward truth or contradiction about yourself, your own internal blurred life moment, that you could choose to own and express today, potentially giving others permission to find their own root beer records moment and finally say, I'm home in my skin?